Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.
Four. Hello, guys. It's Tuesday. It's tea time. We are back for another week in the PGA Tour. This week, the American Express back in the continental United States. I'm Nick Borman of WagerTalk.com. With me, as always, my co-host Andy Lang here to break down all the fun. Andy, welcome in, my friend. How are you? How was your week last week?
It was a great week. Another week of profits, 4 and 2. So really excited about how we started off the golf season. This tournament, wonky. We'll get into the course, but so far 2 for 2 on turning profits. So very excited about it.
Excellent. And we got out of Hawaii finally. We're going back to California this week. So it's a good event to get, I guess, back to the continental United States and break down Andy's favorite events, the old Pro-Ams. Before we get into breaking this week down, let's, as we like to do, start off with a little business this week to discuss. This week's tournament pack, I have another 5%, Andy. That's right. 2 in the first 3 events. Loaded in. Won the first one. Let's see if we can capitalize with the second one. So that is available in my tournament pack this week because there's a 5% in there. That pack goes for $29. Andy's you can get for $19. And, of course, both will cover you all 4 days for this week. So head on over to WagerTalk.com to either one of our capper profiles to check that out. Andy, we always like to start off the segment, or the show, rather, with the best bets and worst bets, from last week. So I always like to give you the honors there. What was your best and what was your worst from last week in Hawaii?
Well, we'll go ahead and start with my best bet, which I'm going to go with JJ Spawn over Emiliano Grillo. I kind of just took a stance on JJ Spawn. I liked what the announcers said about his change of swing, about him having his family over there in Hawaii. And so rolled the dice. He had terrible course history here, but he comes through big time. Grillo misses the cut. JJ Spawn has a really solid finish. So as we talk about, if you can find these guys going on a streak, you can get 3, 4, 5 weeks in head-to-head matchups before the books catch up. So I'm hoping to do that with JJ Spawn. My worst bet, 3rd round, Corey Connors over Nick Hardy.
4.
Nick Hardy shoots -7 that round. Nick, he shot -1 the other 3 rounds combined. It was the low round of the day. That is 2 weeks in a row that I have had a daily matchup in a guy that had the low round of the day and then was completely terrible the next couple days. So 2 of my losses have he shot 68, 63, 71, and 70, and I happened to bet against him on the day where he was on fire. So that happens when you do daily matchups. It can work out good, but every once in a while you get bit by that one. So that was my best.
Yeah.
That was my worst.
That is great. Yeah, that's hard to do, to time that up against the best guy in the field that day. So at least you walked away with profits from the tournament, and that is, of course, all that matters. I did not have a winning week this week. I did not win. I took 3 outright plays, and none of those cashed. And, of course, my best bet this week was Tom Kim to finish top 20, and he wasn't around on the weekend. So I even went deeper on him after he had a bad first round. His putting, I've never seen his putting stats, or anybody's putting stats, as bad. He lost 6.5 strokes putting in round 1, but his tee to green numbers were good. So I'm like, you know what? All right, you can't putt that bad again. And he's hitting the ball well. So I added him live after round 1 to get another leaderboard bet. And then, yeah, he didn't make the cut. So anyway, I dug my hole a little deeper. But such is the case sometimes when you're taking the outright markets. You're going to have losing weeks sometimes, or often, because you're not going to get the outrights a lot. So we hope to hit more than we lose over the course of the year, and hopefully this week we'll get right back to our winning ways with the outright market. So, Andy, let's get into this week's the American Express. As we like to do, let's start off by taking a quick look at the strokes gained data. This is the top 10 total strokes gained over the prior 6 months for the field coming in. As you can see, pretty strong list here at the top. You got John Rahm, Tony Finau, Patrick Cantley, Scotty Scheffler rounding out the top 4. Xander, which I'm sure we're both going to be hesitant on this week coming off that withdrawal a couple weeks ago and not sure about his injury. Cam Young, Willie Z, Tom Kim, of course. I'm not happy with you, Tom. Taylor Montgomery, who just continues to cash leaderboard bets. This guy is he's clearly here to stay. And then the workhorse of the PGA Tour, Sung Jae Im, rounding out the top 10. So a very strong field, much stronger than we saw last week. So this should be a fun event. Last year's champion, Hudson Swafford, another guy not around to defend. He is a LIV golf defect at this point. So we won't be talking about him this week. But Andy, let's get into the tournament and the field here at the American Express. I already mentioned this week is your favorite, the Pro-Am. What do the viewers need to know this week at the American Express?
This is one of my most detested tournaments. It combines two things I hate: Pro-Ams and tournaments played across multiple courses. I'll let you go through the multiple courses, but just be careful this week. This would not be a week I would recommend going high volume. When we get to the majors, there's tons of bets and there's tons of head-to-heads and matchups that we like. I try and go pretty low volume on these Pro-Ams. You get some of these amateurs out there and they can take a long time to hit their shots. They can throw off the pairings. They can throw off groups. We saw Bill Goldberg throw a guy into the pond a few years ago. That actually happened at this tournament. So it's going to be wide open. Go low or go home. I'm sure we'll go over our winning scores. It's going to be in the lower to mid 20s, I'm guessing. But I will have a few plays up. I do have one very, very strong play that's up right now, but don't expect too many daily plays from me this week. I would say 2 to 3 plays max.
Yeah, very nice. And I of course kid with you because I know you love these Pro-Am type of events. And yes, the the multiple course thing is very difficult to get involved with. The daily matchups too, because you're just one guy plays well at one course and he switches courses the next day, and you're just not really sure what to gather from that and how that's going to move into the next day. But you mentioned it. There's 3 courses at play this week, Andy. And that is, we got the Stadium course at PGA West and the Nicklaus Tournament course at PGA West. And then we got La Quinta Country Club. So they're going to play one round at each course. So the cut's not coming until Saturday night going into Sunday. So 54 holes with 156 players spells long days. And then we got the cut going into the final round on Sunday, which they'll go back to the Stadium course at PGA West. And for golf data nerds like myself, strokes gain data is only at Stadium course at PGA West. So a little bit tougher to handicap here as well because there's just not a lot of data you can look back on from years past, and there's not a lot of data to gather during the tournament itself other than that course. So keep that in mind as you're getting into this event. This is Pete Dye Design. I just want to mention that the end of this track is, if you know TPC Sawgrass very well, this Stadium course is, it's not a replica, but it's very close. You got the same 16th par 5 risk reward, 17th island green, although this is about 30 yards longer than the one we see at TPC Sawgrass, and then a waterline par 4 to end it. So it should be great drama on Sunday, but it is a very familiar finish on another Pete Dye Design field. Very strong. Like I mentioned, 156 players in there. I don't know what to make of the Pro-Ams. I agree with Andy. I don't really look at much of the matchup stuff. I do have a couple outrights loaded in my pack now, and I did, like I mentioned already, have that 5% play that I do think will be all right as a leaderboard play. But outside of that, I also will be late this week and recommend a similar strategy for you. All right, Andy, let's get into our bets for this week. One thing I want to mention as we get into that is the last 3 winners. If you're looking for any data to look back on, Andy, the last 3 winners. Hudson Swafford last year, he ranked number 4 strokes gained approach, number 2 putting. This is again measured on just 36 holes, so the 2 PGA the Stadium course courses. And then it was followed by Siwoo Kim, who ranked 4th in approach and 8th putting. And then Andrew Landry, 9th approach, 6th putting. So similar profile, which is, I guess you could say a lot of times, hit the greens and make your putts will lead to success. But none of those guys really were high up in strokes gained off the tee, so probably not an important metric to look at this week. Just look at iron play and look at your putting. So one guy that I think will fit that mold, and he's got great tournament history here, Andy, I'll break it down on Patrick Cantley. as an outright winner, 11-1. Not a great number, but hey, it's better than John Rahm at the plus 650 mark this week. I forgot about Cantley and Siwoo Kim 2 years ago until I started looking at this event, and I realized, oh yeah, I had Cantley 2 years ago, and I thought I had the winner. He shot 61, 11 under par on that final round. Looked like he had come back to win that thing, and Siwoo just kept birdieing. He just kept birdieing. I was so angry when that thing ended up so close, but I'm going back to the well here. So he was runner-up, as I mentioned, 2 years ago. He followed up with a ninth place finish last year. And his only other start in 2019, Andy, he finished tied for ninth. So that means in 3 starts, his worst finish is ninth here. Pretty dang solid. So obviously he's figured out how to deal with these hacking amateurs all around him on the golf course. Cantlay opened his season at Kapalua, tied for 16th. His only other start this season came back in the fall, was a co-runner-up at the Shriners. And although there's only 8 measured rounds on his profile for this PGA Tour season, as far as strokes gained data, he ranks number 1 in greens and regulation and number 1 in birdie average. And I already mentioned why those are important. And then over his final 12 starts last year, Andy, 2 wins, 8 top 10s, and only 2 finishes outside the top 14. So Cantley was as consistent as they come. He's been great here. 11-1 is not a long number by any means, but I don't think we're going to have a long shot winner here. I think there's just that top 10 list is pretty strong. So I think it's going to come from one of those guys. So I'm going to go with Cantlay. 11-1 is my outright selection. Andy, that's one guy to bet on. Who's a couple guys not to bet on this week?
Let's take a look at guys who can trip you up this week. These are bigger names that I think you may put in your daily fantasy lineups. You may want to bet on, and I say be a little bit careful. And I'm going to start with Siwoo Kim. Nick, this is a really good betting strategy, fading unexpected winners the next week. I have Siwoo Kim as an unexpected winner for sure. Even with the win, Nick, he is still minus 0.57 strokes gained putting over the last 6 months.
Oof.
That's with the win. So I expect him to regress back here. I fully expect a letdown from him. And here's the other thing, Nick. I believe this guy likes to celebrate his wins. He has won 3 other tournaments in his career before last week, and he missed the cut in all 3 tournaments following his wins. 100% missed cut rate after his wins. He won this tournament 2 years ago, finished 11th last year. I just think he's going to be pretty overpriced this week. And people say, oh, he won and he plays good here. No, there's a lot of celebrating this week. Siwoo Kim, I'm not getting near this week. Next one, Scotty Scheffler. Nick, his putting is still an issue. He was barely even on strokes gained putting at the Tourney of Champions. He's getting it done with incredible approach shots and tee to green numbers. Number 1 in the field this week by far, tee to green. But he's outside the top 100 in this field in putting over the last 6 months. That's just in this field. And he's going to have to finish top 4 to return any type of investment. And with that putting, and he finished miscut 25th the last 2 years, I just don't trust him. I see him matched up against John Rahm. I would easily take John Rahm over Scheffler until Scheffler gets back to his good putting ways. And then finally, you mentioned him. I just want to remind everyone, Xander Schauffele, if you don't remember, had to withdraw with the back issues 2 weeks ago, and he's priced as a top 5 favorite. There's really no reason to roll the dice with him this week in, season fantasy, daily fantasy head-to-heads. But I also wouldn't bet against him. He withdrew. He's had a couple weeks off. If his back is feeling good this week, he could be in contention if he's feeling 100%. So Xander's not a fade. He's not a bet on. Just stay away from Schauffele altogether.
I always celebrate right after your list, so long as I don't have any of the guys on that list, and that works out well for me this week. Last week it was Russell Henley who I took as the top 20. You had him on your list, and he didn't finish top 20, so you were right. And I apologize for making the wrong decision again. Never go against Andy's guys to avoid lists. That's my number 1 rule for today. Don't go against that list. He is spot on with that every week. So good names there, Andy. I agree with all those guys. I'll move on to a leaderboard bet I like this week, and that's going back to Sung Jae Im, who I actually previewed in last week's show, Andy, as an outright play. That worked out very well for me. So 2 of my guys I bet on last week, Tom Kim and Sung Jae Im, weren't even around during the weekend, but that's one reason I do like him this week. If you watch some of the best players on the PGA Tour and you follow the tour, these guys don't stay down for very long. They all miss cuts. Everybody can have a bad week. You get off to a bad start. You're just not feeling it that week, whatever. But they don't usually miscuts two weeks in a row, they come back strong, and it usually just gives you a little bit of maybe you get a couple extra cents on their price because of that, because the golf markets react more weekly than most major sports markets I know of. So Sungjae Im top 20 plus 115 this week. Listen, he's you don't have to, I mentioned this last week. You don't have to be long here as well. I mentioned that the off the tee stats don't really apply much here, but he's number 27. This was last year in driving accuracy and number 9 in greens and regulation. Because of that, number 9 strokes gained tee to green, and is scrambling very good. 5th in scrambling, 12th strokes gained around the green. His history here, Andy, is another reason I love him. Clearly a guy that doesn't get distracted by all the amateurs around him. No worse than tied for 12th in each of the last 4 years. He's averaging plus 2.35 strokes gained per round over that span. Again, granted, that's only measuring the 2 rounds at the stadium course, but again, that's half of this tournament being played there. So clearly he likes that course, and clearly he likes this event, the collection of courses. He's done nothing but finish inside this top 20 in all 4 starts here. So plus 115 price. I like him coming off that miscut last week. I think he bounces back, and I'll take the money, the plus money on him to do so. Andy, your daily fantasy guys for this week. Who are the low-priced gentlemen you're going to be targeting in your lineups this week?
Yeah, I lost my head-to-head matchup last week, and I was extremely upset because I ended up having 2 guys miss the cut, and the guy I was playing had 1. And the reason he had his guy make the cut was because the guy holed out a 106-yard eagle to make the cut by 1 shot. But honestly, my fantasy lineup was not great last week. So looking to rebound here, my DraftKings Darlings, I'm going to start with David Lipsky. He's only 7,300 on DraftKings. He withdrew at the RSM in the fall. But before that, finished 44th, 40th, 10th, and 22nd. He finished 4th last week at the Sony Open, which is a really good finish for him. And he finished 14th last year at this tournament. So I think we got a guy in good form, and he played really good at this tournament last year for 7,300. I hope to get some cheap points from him on the weekend. I'm also going to go with Will Gordon at 7,400. He had a terrible end to the 2022 season. He missed 4 straight cuts, but I don't know what happened to him in the fall. But starting with the Fortinet, he's made the cut in 8 straight tournaments, finished 28th last week. He's 25th in this field in total strokes gained since the fall season started. So he's done it over a good stretch of tournaments, and at 7,400 on DraftKings, he's a bargain. And then I'll keep going back to Denny McCarthy at 7,900. We talked about how his putting can always be a worry, but he's been a really solid DFS player. He's made the cut in 10 out of his last 11 tournaments. Doesn't have any true glaring weaknesses across the board, and as long as he keeps making the cut, and he's underpriced here, less than 8,000, I'm going to keep playing him. So my final lineup, Nick, is going to be Lipsky, Gordon, and McCarthy. I'm also going to put JT Poston in. I'm going to put Andrew Putnam in, who is under the radar, playing really, really well and loves playing here. And I just wanted John Rahm. I normally don't splurge for these big-name guys. He's playing so good, and he plays so good here. I just want all those John Rahm putts and stats. I expect him to go low again. So Lipsky, Gordon, McCarthy, Poston, Putnam, and Rahm. That is my final DraftKings lineup.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to leave Rahm off your betting card this week. Of course, he's priced ridiculous in almost every aspect of it, but it's hard not to see him in the mix come Sunday just with how good he's been playing. And Putnam is a guy I like this week as well. He's been very, very good here over the last, I think it's 4 years now at this tournament. And I was looking up the top guys strokes gain data at this venue, and he's in the top 5 over those last 4 years. So I like that selection as well, and I think all your low price guys are make sense. Willie G I think he was within 1 shot of the lead after 36 last week too, because I noticed him on the leaderboard as well. So good selections there, Andy. I wish you the best of luck on your DraftKings lineup. Let's get into our best bets for the week. I will start us off with a matchup I'm going back to this week. Last week I had Corey Connors as the top Canadian. He lost by 1 shot. And it was very, very frustrating. Nick Taylor kind of came out of nowhere and beat him on that final round. Otherwise, that looked like a good cash. This week, I'm going to go with the matchup of Brian Harman over Sam Burns. This is available at DraftKings. He's easily the hottest player of these two. He finished tied for 32nd last week at the Sony Open. which was his worst finish in 6 starts this season, includes 2 runner-ups at Mayakoba and the RSM Classic. He also finished last season very strong with 2 more top 10s in his final 5 starts. And his last missed cut, Andy, came all the way back in July at the Scottish Genesis Open. Burns, meanwhile, he did not look good at Kapalua, 32nd out of 39. He also wasn't in contention at the Hero in December, and both of those came on the heels of a withdrawal at the Houston Open after firing an opening round 77. So I'm going to take Harman in this matchup. I think he's just the hotter player, and he's actually had good history here as well. So, Brian Harman, even money over Sam Burns is my best bet. Andy, your best bet of the week? What you got?
Andrew Putnam over Siwoo Kim. We've mentioned both of them, and I just believe so much in fading Siwoo Kim. Putnam finished 4th last week, just behind Siwoo Kim, and Kim has finished 11th and 1st the last 2 years. Putnam 14th, 21st, and 10th the last 3 years, and I just see a letdown from Siwoo. This has been a really good betting strategy to fade these random winners. Siwoo, we mentioned, never made the cut in the tournament after a win in his career. We mentioned he's still minus 0.52 strokes gained putting the last 6 months. I'm just going to fade Siwoo Kim this week with Andrew Putnam. I think we're getting a great price on Putnam as he's off of people's radars, very undervalued. Don't be shy about putting him in your seasonal fantasy lineups or your daily fantasy lineups and betting on him in head-to-heads. He's been really good, and I can't wait to fade Siwoo this week.
Well, I already said I agree with the fate of Siwoo, and I agreed with your mention of Putnam before. So obviously I can't argue that matchup as well. So good luck there. I do like that play. Andy, last part of the show, we've been doing this the last couple of weeks now, is trying to guess the final score. You nailed it on the head 2 weeks ago at Kapalua. I won last week as the tournament ended up being a lot higher scoring with a lower under par number than either of us thought, but I was on the underside of that, so I was a little closer. So I guess I get the honors this week. Last year, winner was 23 under. 2 years ago, the winner was 23 under. I mean, it's almost guaranteed to be 23 under. The trends are there, Andy, so I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going 23 under. What do you think?
The trend is your friend. Yeah, I'm gonna go slightly higher. I'm gonna go minus 25 because I believe it's top heavy, and then there's a big drop off. You've got big names like Rahm. I mentioned Scheffler, but he is a big name. We got Finau, Cantlay, Schauffele if he's healthy, Sung J M, Zalatoris, Tom Kim can go low. So I think we've got enough big names to really, really push this thing higher. Looks like lower. It looks like the weather is going to be really, really good. Should be good conditions. Give me minus 25 as the winning score.
Okay. I'll hope for that one kind of tricky weather round or something that'll help me keep that score just a little lower so I can win this one for this week. All right, last order of business. Just mention the promos.
Guys, we got promo. Go grab all of our plays up at WagerTalk. Nick has a 5% play. Sorry, guys. Nick just cut out there. Nick's got a 5% play. He cashed in the Tourney of Champions, and he's got another one. So we don't use these 5% plays very often. So for him to have 2 5% plays in the first 3 weeks means he's got his eye on something great. I do not know what it is, but I will certainly be playing and following along with it. I've got my golf pack that is up right now. It's going to include every play that we have this week, and we also have the special for golf and auto racing. It's still up. $299 gets you the full year of golf and auto racing. We are already up over 10 units just in golf. So those who got involved early on that special are reaping the rewards. So guys, thanks very much. Hopefully Nick is okay. I'm sure he's doing better than his internet is right now. But go grab myself and Nick's plays. They're up at WagerTalk.com. If you're watching this tournament, be prepared. The rounds are going to be long. They're going to take forever. And don't forget that the cut is on Saturday, not Friday. That's really important in your seasonal fantasy leagues. So good luck, everyone. Let's have a profitable tournament. We'll see everyone next week on Tea Time.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers' best bet or daily package for only $2.